Well, hello. So today I'm going to do a video on all the Enneagram types. And I can't believe I haven't done a video on this already. I think you can only be one Enneagram type. How you relate to the Enneagrams on your left and your right, which are your wings, alters your Enneagram type. Make your Enneagram type more unique and specific to you. If you also look at the Enneagram diagram, you will notice that your Enneagram has two lines that draw to two additional Enneagram types. And how much you're influenced by those types also can alter your Enneagram as well. Don't get confused. So I think with Enneagram and Myers-Briggs, one of the ways that you can decipher some things about what your personality type is by combining your Myers-Briggs with what your Enneagram type is. I think you can have 9 different types of ENFJs. Let's talk about Enneagram 1, which is the perfectionist. So these people are very orderly. They don't like mistakes. They want to be on time. They're going to not really like being criticized or judged. That's just going to push them to be more perfect and to get things right. They can also be very passionate about what it is that they're doing. They're gonna be warriors, be your rule followers. They can be shockingly competitive, especially if they feel like, somebody is doing a little better than them. That might, edge them to be competitive and really step it up. And they think of things in terms of right and wrong, good and bad. They can also be very idealistic, wanting the world to be a better place, and they believe in truth and justice. Let's talk about Enneagram 2, which is affectionately known as the helper. When I think of them, I think of warmth. They always want to help someone. Like if somebody's on the side of the road stranded, they're going to be the person to say, hello, are you okay? Like they get energy from helping people. It doesn't wear them out. It doesn't tire them. They're going to be the ones who want to serve you and to lend a helping hand and make a home feel like a home. Now they may start to get overwhelmed because people tend to rely on them, but sometimes they can have moments where they start to feel resentful. They are sensitive. They're going to use tact unless they are mad at you. Like if they get really ticked off about something, then they might start taking a few punches here and there, but they have a need to feel close to people. You're going to find a lot of twos who are actually quality time. They can have trouble asking for what they need, and believe it or not, they can feel lonely sometimes. When they are meeting the needs of other people, it helps them not to feel sad or unimportant. They can be overly emotional at times, and believe it or not, kind of like the 3s, they may like being around important people who they deem powerful. They don't want to hurt anyone's feelings, and they can be quite sensitive to disapproval. Hold up 3 fingers, because now we're talking about the 3, which is the doer or the achiever. So they like to be praised for what they do. They can be the workaholics of the world. They want to work. That's how they get their value. That's how they feel good about themselves. They don't mind working overtime, and they have a positive attitude when it comes to work. Now, they do like making connections with people that they deem important. They like being in the know. They like having lots of connections. Why? Because they like to get the job done, and the more connections you have, the more things you can do. I know this person, I'm connected with that. They can be confident. They don't understand boredom because there's always something to do, and they're not going to let anything stop them, not even feeling sick. They want to do things as quickly as possible, so they may be very fast-paced. Check out a more in-depth look at the 2 and the 3 Enneagram in my playlist. Let's talk about Enneagram 4. I am Enneagram 4, so put that on my ENFJ, and you get a fuller picture of who I am. They're called the romantics or the individualists. So there's something about them. They want to be different. They want to stand out. They want to... But it's not even just about that. So they may not even recognize that in themselves. I think when people think of 4s, they think of automatic, artsy, and blah, blah, blah. Sometimes, but not necessarily. They are gonna be more sensitive, more feel more deeply, at least inwardly. I think it can add more color to their personalities. For example, I have 2 friends that are ISFJs. One is the asserter and one is a 4. The 4 ISFJ is very engaging, very warm, very in-depth conversation, wants to think deeply. One of the things about fours is there's always this longing. There's this longing for a better relationship or the right connection or the job that makes you feel like there's just this longing that is difficult to satisfy that you could spend your whole life looking for. And there's always this sort of search for self. Fours are not always introverts. I think a lot of introverted fours, sometimes they think they're extroverted. Sometimes J's that are fours think that they are perceivers because there is a spontaneous component that's weaved in there where you need to be free to express who you are and just kind of do things your own way. They want to put some creativity on it. But they can also be moody. They can be needy sometimes. They can get hurt. They can be very sensitive to rejection. I've also done some videos on the fours. Fours like to have warm connections with people. Sometimes they don't feel understood. They feel like, when is their life going to begin? They can be very imaginative, but because they're very sensitive, they might always question, did I say the wrong thing? Should I have said that differently? And also be sort of knocked into depression, which can render them sort of helpless or unable to do things for hours, weeks, days, that type of thing. They can be very emotional. Now, let's talk about the fives. Are going to often feel like I can't get a freaking word in. And so you're going to find more introverts who are fives for sure. And they are an example of what it looks like. If you want to see how an introvert feels like they just don't quite fit into this world, then you're going to look at the five, and it kind of explains a lot. Fives like to observe, just like their name insinuates. And they would rather observe than to do. So when you think of the three is always doing, executing. The five, not so much. They're going to learn more from just watching or reading. They can get very lost in things that they're interested in for hours. So they may feel like, why am I not productive? But they can kind of get lost in their thoughts. They can also be quite generous. They may not show you how sensitive they are to criticism and judgment, but I think they have felt a lot of criticism and judgment from people or from overpowering extroverts who are like, you got to move over here, you got to do this, got to do that. But they don't feel heard a lot. And that is super frustrating because sometimes they have a great way of doing things and they just get smothered by people who don't have good intentions or who just don't want to listen. But they can be accused of being suspicious. Some of them are quite suspicious, like always kind of having that third eye out. And it probably comes from doing a lot of observing. They could be thought of as being negative or cynical. They can feel reluctant to be assertive a lot of times, but they can sort of tap into that other piece of them, the Enneagram, the asserter, which they also have some connections to. And they can be assertive at times, but most of the times they refrain from that, and people think, oh, you're so shy. Really, not necessarily. They can feel quite different from other people. They can feel invisible, and so when someone notices them, it feels really good to them or even shocking. Sometimes they can come across as arrogant when it might be that they just don't feel comfortable, and sometimes it takes them a while to get their thoughts together before they can say them. They like having a few special friends. They can be very bright, curious. They like to gather information and they can also be very kind, perceptive, very devoted people. Let's slide into the six. I've done videos on the six and the four, so if you want an in-depth look, then check those out. These are your fighters on the Enneagram. They're one of the fighters, or they're super compliant with authority. But they can be your fighters because they have a lot of anxiety. They are very driven by anxiety. So they may feel nervous around some authority figures. They like to know where they stand. They're always on the alert for danger. They like safety. That's important to them. They're always questioning themselves about what might go right, what might go wrong. They're overthinkers, but they can be very hard workers. They can impress people. They can do things above average. These are your survivors. Sometimes they've been through some tough things in their childhood, but they've overcome them. And so sometimes they can kind of have a finesse and a flair about them that other types don't. But, They can be quite polarizing. If they're your friend, you're going to really, really benefit from them. They're usually really good at whatever it is that they do. They are very aware of manipulation and flattery. They like things to be predictable. They can support people through whatever they're going through, no matter what. They like to feel in control. So they don't like pretense. Sometimes they need a moment to worry. Let's talk about the 7, the adventurer. Their motto might be, don't fence me in. Maybe you're people who like to try new things, try new adventures. They might be the ones that want to try new foods and go to new things. They just want to be able to explore and move around. They like to enjoy life. They like being uninhibited. They can get extremely bored, so that's why sometimes they like to be busy and do lots of different things. They are usually very easygoing people and nice to get along with. They can be idealistic and have a quick wit, and they want to contribute something to the world. They are usually at ease, and they can help people to see the brighter side of things, but they are your excitement driven people. They're going to want to travel. They're going to want to go, try this, try that, do this, do that. That's what makes them happy. They like doing lots and lots of things. I made a video on the 7. Be sure to check it out because they like to take action and they like it when there's something new that they get to do. So let's talk about the 8, which is the asserter. These are your other fighters on the Enneagram. They like to fight. They can be confrontational. They're going to say it like it is. Some people really like this type because they find them to be actually quite funny and hilarious. They actually like to engage with people, even though they can be confrontational and tough-minded. They want to feel close to people. They don't want their trust betrayed. It's hard for them to be vulnerable. That's something that they have to work on, but they don't want to be flattered. Favorite love language might not be words of affirmation, but some people may use that to try to get them off of their backs. They might use a lot of swear words, they might curse, they might talk really loud or yell things, but they want you to know that that's just who they are. Like, don't be totally offended by that. They like to be confident, strong, and direct. That's who they are, and they know how to make decisions. They know how to get things done, and they do like excitement and stimulation. They also like to spar with people, and sometimes they trust you more when you are upfront and say your truth. Be direct and honest. Put your cards on the table because that's what they do. Now, let's talk about the last Enneagram, which is the 9. They're often referred to as the peacemakers. So yes, they're very pleasant. They can be peaceful, very patient, very open-minded towards people. The crux of their personality is that they don't like disagreements or confronting people. They want to walk away from situations like that. They're going to want to deal with a lot of unpleasantness around them. It makes them escape into their mind somewhere because they just don't want to deal with that kind of thing. They may be more prone to putting things off until the last minute, but that doesn't mean that they won't get them done. They just may get a bit of a surge of an energy. They can appear to be calm and unhurried, but that doesn't mean that they're not going to overextend themselves at times. They can be very sensitive about being judged. They can take criticism to be very hurtful, but they are great listeners and they want to give people support. So they'd rather focus on what's positive rather than negative. Before you put a halo on their heads, they can feel quite anxious, believe it or not, which is why they're drawn to peacefulness. Probably something in their childhood may have been unsettling, and so they're always aiming for peace because they didn't like the way that felt. Some of them could delve into passive aggressiveness, especially when it comes to romantic relationships. Not all of them. That's because they're anxious and they can become on guard. Overall, they are going to help people. They like helping people. They can have a lot of patience when it comes to helping people. Like it when you let them know what it is that you like about them, and they like questioning things, or for you to ask them questions because that helps them to clarify how they feel. They want to have a hearty, good discussion about things as long as it doesn't involve confrontation. So those are the Enneagram types. I hope you enjoyed them. If you want me to do more Enneagram videos, then hit the like button and let me know in the comment section what your Enneagram is, what your Myers-Briggs is, if you know it, and what your wings are. Until next time, bye people.